Oh, thanks, guys. So yeah, I'm Alice Bloomfield. I'm a London-based illustrator, animator, and director. And in the past, I've been so lucky to work with clients such as Gucci, Netflix, the Tate Modern, and Rihanna's lingerie line, Savage Fenty, which was really, really cool. And yeah, I guess I'm pretty well known for having quite a distinct style. When I was younger, I used to love drawing models from fashion magazines. I loved the beauty, the glamour, and almost how unattainable it all felt as well. And I was definitely also living vicariously through my own drawings, just drawing all the beautiful bits of clothing that I really wanted, but couldn't have. And yeah, I also am very drawn to anything slightly sleazy, creepy. So I kind of combine both of these things by having these models in beautiful, opulent settings, but always with a little kind of undercurrent of something, a little bit scary. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm always aiming for whenever I make anything. But today, I'm going to talk to you about a really special music video project that I did for the Outernet. And the Outernet is this building in Tottenham Court Road. It's pretty crazy. It's got these 4 interior walls, which are made of screens, and a massive ceiling screen as well. So it's this really cool space for showing 360 video. And the biggest screen in there is 15 meters high, so it's absolutely massive as well. But it's pretty hard to get a real sense of the space just from this little picture. So I've put together some clips from the project that I did, which will give you a better sense of the project and of the space that the project was for. So yeah, here we go. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and tell you how I got the project in the first place, how I kind of came up with my ideas, and then how I got into the workflow and finished it all. So I'm signed to Black Dog Films as a director, and they were the ones who gave me this brief for this project. And they sent it out to all their directors and asked everyone to put their best ideas forward, and then the client would choose their favorite to go into production and become the video. And at the time, the building hadn't even been built yet, so there wasn't really much to go off. But we've got this little map of all the screens and how it would kind of fit together to give us an idea of the space. And they were pretty open to ideas. All they really said to us was that they wanted something to use the space in quite a creative, fun way. I remember them saying the last thing they wanted was for the same video to be playing on each screen. They wanted something kind of that would use the space to the full capacity and be quite creative and outside the box. So my first idea off the bat was that I wanted something just full of nature, nice little flowers, just a really nice, calm vibe. Obviously, Tottenham Court Road is the middle of London. It's really grey, trafficy, noisy. So I wanted to make something to completely counterbalance that and almost have this just room of calm and peace, and you could just go in and breathe and be surrounded by nature. And I also had some ways which I wanted to use the screens in. So firstly, quite straightforward, but I wanted to have these 360 surround images of nature so that you feel really immersed in the landscape in this world that I've created. Secondly, I wanted to use the side screens to show the main character's reactions to things. So you would see what she sees on this big main screen, and then on the side screens you would see her reaction. And this was just so you felt you were really on the journey with this main character. You see what she sees, you feel what she feel what she feels. And yeah, it kind of helps the narrative as well. And then thirdly, I wanted to use the screens in almost a really aesthetic way, and just have these little floral motifs on the side. And yeah, there's nothing too deep about this. This is just so it looks nice, which I think is fine. I think things can just look nice sometimes. Not everything's got to be a deep concept. For the pitch, I also did some storyboards. This is not my favorite part of the project, as you may be able to tell. They're always like a little bit rough and ready. I've put the final image below, like alongside it, so you can kind of see how much better it does get. I'm a very process-driven artist, so I love just making things up as I go along, like finding new things out on the job, just like messing around with it. So having to plan everything out at the very beginning just takes all the joy out of that for me. So yeah, it's always a little bit rough. But I always say, if the client likes the storyboard, they're going to love the final thing, because it only gets better. So yeah, after all of that, I sent all that off to the client, and they ended up choosing my project to be the one to be made, which was absolutely amazing. This was the first pitch that I ever won, so it was kind of a crazy one to be thrown in with. But yeah, so exciting. And then it was on to the real work. So I'm a frame-by-frame animator, which means that I animate every single frame out, like individually. And I do 12 frames a second. That's 12 individual drawings per second of animation. So obviously that's quite a lot, as you can imagine. And yeah, for this project, I was in my room for 3 months straight, just like animating away, kind of crazily. And yeah, it was quite hard, because obviously it was for these massive screens, and I really had no concept of how it would translate from my computer screen to like these huge, like 50-meter high screens. I kept sitting with my face like right up next to the monitor and just trying to imagine what it would be like really big. Yeah, I did feel kind of in the dark for a lot of it, but luckily the Outernet team had a solution for this, which was VR. So they actually had built this replica of the building in virtual reality. So I was able to put my animations up on the virtual reality screens and kind of see how it would like all look. And yeah, I've got a little example here of how it looked. So you can see it's just like really helpful for kind of seeing how everything fits together and kind of understanding the scale a little bit as well. And yeah, it was really helpful, but it also brought some like issues to light that we hadn't really thought about, and that you just wouldn't have thought about if you hadn't worked on a big screen before, which obviously I had not. The first issue was that you couldn't have anything too big on these screens. So as a director, I love having like really long, wide shots, or like really zoomed in, close shots, just because it's like really dramatic, and I love the drama. But on these screens, when you're standing there in person, it's just so big that you actually can't see the whole thing, like in one view. So if anything was too zoomed in on it, you actually just couldn't really tell what it was. It was almost like quite abstract. So yeah, a lot of things were zoomed out a little bit. And similarly, you couldn't have anything moving too fast across the screens, or else you actually get quite motion sick. And also there are 5 screens to be looking at, so if something happens really fast on a screen over there, like you're going to miss it. So everything was like slowed down a little bit. All the actions were very like soft and subtle, which also kind of helped with my idea of having like a calm, nice environment. So it all worked out. And then thirdly, because these screens are so tall, you're kind of craning your neck looking up at them quite a lot. So if anything was too high, like you would literally just break your neck, like it's too much. So I kind of moved everything right down on the screens, which felt a little bit counterintuitive. But I also used this to my advantage, and I ended up doing a lot of the shots from a below angle, so that when you're looking up at this below angle on the big screen, it kind of enhances it and makes it a bit more exaggerated, which is really cool. But yeah, the biggest of all the issues was definitely the most stressful one, and it happened right at the end of the project. So everything was all done. I had my 3 months inside working away, and we had one last meeting with the Outernet team. And yeah, I remember them saying, they were like, yeah, it's all looking good, like everything's fine, but we've had a few last-minute checks, and I think we're going to need a higher frame rate. You've been using 12 frames a second, but I think we're going to need at least 24 frames a second. Yeah. And I was just sat in this meeting going like more and more red. I was like, I don't know. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I've just spent 3 months in my room working, and now you want twice as many frames, which is twice as much work. Like, I was freaking out. But luckily, it did not come to that. We found a solution, which was to use AI. So we actually found an AI company to generate a new frame in between every existing frame. Like, thank God. And it wasn't perfect. There were some bits which were a little bit like weird. So you can kind of see the eyelashes are like a little bit blurry, and the dandelion bit is like a little bit messed up. So I did redraw some bits myself, but luckily it was not like all those frames all over again. And yeah, after that it was all done. Overall, it took about 2.5 years from like start of planning to like finish. But that was also kind of because the building hadn't been built yet, so we had to like wait for that, obviously. But yeah, one of my favorite projects, definitely one of the most unique ones, and I feel really thankful to have been chosen to work on such a unique space. And if you want to go see it, it is still on Tottenham Court Road. I think it plays like roughly once every 1 to 2 hours. So yeah, go check it out. Thanks, guys.